The Quay is filled with men, women, and children, mostly women and children, old women, mothers, and young children. Many of the women between ages of 16 to 30, 40 had actually been taken away, had either been raped, murdered, taken away by the impending Turkish army. But those that were tens of thousands, those of men, women, and children who were left on the Quay are desperate to get out of Smyrna. Not only are they desperate because they fear the coming of the Turkish army, but the city has been set on fire.
They were trying to escape. Where else can they go? The only thing that was safe to go to the Quay, so hopefully, the British and the American ships that they were docked, by the bay, they were hoping that they would be saved by them, but they never did. The Allies did not lift a finger to help them. Why? Because Kemal Atatürk said, if you help the Christians, well, nothing is coming to you, but if you stay away from the Christians, then I can help you, prosper in my country. So they took Atatürk's orders, so they stayed docked at the bay, and they didn't help anybody. But this was the only hope that they had.
So the citizens of Smyrna and the refugees naturally assumed that the warships would land troops and protect them from the oncoming Turkish forces. What happened was something completely different. On the morning of September 9, a very smartly dressed division of the Turkish cavalry entered Smyrna and reassured the population that they had the city under control and no one should be concerned about their safety. But meanwhile, from other parts of the perimeter of the city, Turkish irregulars and Turkish soldiers entered the city and started looting it. They started from the Armenian quarter. There was a long history of animosity between the Ottomans and the Armenians, and most of the Armenians in the eastern part of the empire had been ethnically cleansed in 1915 during the Armenian genocide, but this big community in Smyrna had remained.
These brigands were hacking people to death, and the population went to the city. There were probably 500,000 people there with no home, no food, no anything.
At the Quay, they sat there, they waited here, the fire was coming, burning their things that they carried for miles from the inner part of Turkey to come to Smyrna to be rescued. The ashes were all over the place. The people looked like phantoms because of the ashes of the fire. Remember now, all the neighborhoods of Smyrna was burning except the Turkish neighborhood. They didn't touch that. So you have the flames, you have the ashes, the people waiting, crying, praying. And here you have the Tsetes, the Turkish cavalry army. They came, they started butchering the people. Anything that they could destroy, they were able to do so. And plus the fact they picked up the young girls, they raped them. And whereabout did they rape them? They took them to the cemetery of St. Fotinis Cathedral, which was one of the sacred places to rape them. But note that they brought the daughters back and they took the mothers to be raped at the same point. At the end, what happened? They butchered them, both of them. So in other words, they did whatever they wanted. There was no order in Smyrna. Everybody did, all the Tsetes, all the Turkish did whatever they pleased.
On the Quay, there are men, women, and children who are desperate to save their lives as the city is burning, as the Turkish army is moving forward through the city, systematically overtaking the city. People are literally jumping into the bay and swimming to the 20-plus ships that are docked, European ships, American, British, French, Italian ships that are docked there that are not allowed to take on citizens other than their own citizens. So if you were an American citizen, yes, you could get on an American ship. If you could somehow demonstrate to the French or the Italian that you had some affiliation with France, citizenship, or you had relationship with somebody in France, you could get on. But for the vast majority of Smyrnians, they couldn't, and those Armenians and Greeks that had come from the hinterland, they couldn't get on these ships. They're literally swimming out to the ships, and as they try to climb up, they're being pushed away with bayonets. There's some descriptions of people, getting their hands chopped off as they're trying to climb up one of the ropes to get on some of these ships. They are physically unable, or they are physically being pushed away by the military and other merchant personnel on these ships.
So it was a very desperate condition. People were packed together. There's a substantial risk of disease. If you read the letters of my grandmother, there were body parts of people strewn along the road. There were dead people everywhere. In any event, and those at greatest risk were the women. And so, because these brigands, not the regular army of Turkey, but these wild ones, would grab a woman, Greek or Armenian, they'd strip her nude, they'd make her dance, and then they would violate her. And women would they would kill themselves rather than be subjected to that.
There was no hope for them to hold on. And the other thing that really amazed me is that the Americans, at the end, they said to George Horton, okay, now we're gonna save the Americans because the fire is extending now and it's burning everything. So get all the Americans, by the bay, and we are going to rescue them. But along the Americans, the Greeks got up and they started following them, hoping that they would be saved too. But once they got over, before getting in the ship, they wanted a passport. They did not accept them because Greece didn't accept anybody without any papers or passports.
As things are deteriorating rapidly in Smyrna, the admiral, the U.S. Admiral, Admiral Bristol in Constantinople, who is the commissioner, the high commissioner, the U.S. commissioner representing the United States interests in Turkey, is in Constantinople, and there is getting daily briefings on what's going on in Smyrna. We know from his own personal writing, the own personal writings of Admiral Bristol, that he had a very negative view of the Greek population, of Greeks in general. He had a negative view of Middle Eastern people in general, and his disdain for the Greeks was on top of that, was above that as well. And as things are unfolding in Smyrna, he is in Constantinople really not paying that much attention to the human suffering. He sees this as an inevitable result of Greek ineptitude in their attempt on this, in this war of 1919, 1920, 1921, and that the Greeks deserve what they're getting. And so he basically stands idly by. There are these stories where he's in Constantinople sipping tea, playing tennis, as Smyrna is burning and this humanitarian crisis is unfolding.